You mentioned JFK there. I know you got the chance to meet Fidel Castro, and I think you had a pretty serious conversation, a short conversation with him and JFK. What was he like, and what did you guys talk about?
Well, first and foremost, I only had about an hour with him, with Fidel, and for 40 minutes we talked about trade. He bragged about Cuba, which he should. They had the best hospital care of any nation down there in the Central America and all that, and they got the best education system. And he's doing this all while fighting our sanctions and driving 1955 Chevys, all over Havana, having them run on wire and anything else they can come up with. They probably got Russian engines in them, you know. But anyway, that aside, and it was interesting because with 20 minutes to go, I wore a watch then. I happened to glance at my watch and Fidel caught me. And he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, am I keeping you from something?" And I knew I had to respond quickly, so I thought, be honest. I said, "No, sir, you're not keeping me from anything." I said, "I was just looking at my watch because I said, you've only given me 1 hour, and I wanted to see how much time I had left. And I see that I have 20 minutes left. And I said, I would like, if I can, to ask you personal questions for these last 20 minutes. And Castro looked at me and he said, "Ask me anything you want." And I said, I was 12 or 13 years old when President John F. Kennedy was murdered in 1963. I was born in 51. And I said, my adult life I've spent studying that murder. And I said, naturally, you come up in a lot of scenarios, your name. I said, now that I'm here looking at you face to face, I would like the opportunity to ask you, what is your opinion of what occurred November the 22nd, 1963? I couldn't shut him up for 20 minutes. I just sat back and listened. First and foremost, he looked at me and said it was an inside job. He said Oswald couldn't make the shots. He said, you know that as well as I do. So obviously Fidel did his homework on me because he obviously knew my military background, and because he said to me, he said, one of the things I was in charge of in the revolution was snipers. And he said, I can assure you Oswald couldn't make the shots that they're telling you he did. And he said to me, you know that as well as I do. And then he went on to say that about Kennedy, and this is the part that I really loved. He said to me about John Kennedy, he said, at the time, we were tight with the Russians. And he said, here's what the Russians said to me about Kennedy. Russia's evaluation of Kennedy was this. They said, you can talk to this man. Now, what is wrong with that? Nothing. You can talk to this man. And that's what Castro told me was Russia's message to Fidel. Then Castro said to me, at the very moment Kennedy was killed, Kennedy had sent a reporter named Jean Daniel here from France. Jean Daniel and I were discussing. He said, I believe Kennedy was going to change the policy on Cuba because Kennedy was setting up a meeting with me through Jean Daniel. I checked on it later. Everything Castro told me was true. Jean Daniel, absolutely. Everything he told me was true. And then I'll tell you this. The day that I announced, Castro then said to me, the next time you come back to my country, he said, please, because the United States wouldn't let my wife go. You know why?
Mm-mm.
Why do you think?
Visa, I don't know. What do they say?
Well, they wouldn't let her go because what do most women do when its husband's on a business trip? They go shopping, don't they? They didn't want her spending any money in Cuba. That was the reason. Can you believe that? Like what? My wife is going to prop up the Cuban economy? That was the reason. She couldn't accompany me there. So Castro said to me, the next time you come back, he said, you bring your wife, you bring your children as my guest. It's a regret I have today that I never attempted to go back, because you know what happened when I announced I wasn't seeking re-election? Here's a story for you. I was going home after I said I'm not seeking re-election. And my chief of staff said, you got to go to the governor's residence. It's Friday. You can't go home. I said, why not? He whispered to me, Cuba. I said, oh, okay. So I went to the governor's residence. Car pulls up from the Swiss embassy. Guy from the Swiss embassy gets out because, we got our shit against Castro. Take him in the library, and here's the message. He said, I have a message for you from Cuba. And when they say the word Cuba, that's the same thing as saying to me, Fidel. He said, I have a message from Cuba for you. Cuba wants you to know they understand why you're not running for re-election. They support whatever personal decision it is of yours. But they also want you to know this. Even though you won't be in office anymore, they want you to know that a friend of Cuba's will always be a friend of Cuba's.
Powerful. Powerful.
That touched me, that Fidel Castro would send that message to me. And I'll take liberty and maybe say this, and I'm taking great liberty. I have no right to say it at all. I think Fidel saw in me, he saw himself a little bit. Someone who ain't afraid to upset the apple cart. Someone who wouldn't be afraid. Like I've told people, how can you be against Fidel in Cuba? There is no way he could have succeeded had he not had the people with him. So that means Batista was worse. That's why I call, what's his name? The senator from Florida, Rubio. I call him a Batista bootlicker.
Got it.
Because he has this hatred of Fidel, supposedly. I said, well, he's obviously a Batista man.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts. as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.